welcome to Week in Review. This is where we take a look at all the reviews we did the last week, tell you our quick summaries of them, and if you want to know more, we'll have links in the description so you can see the full review. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Last week I reviewed 4 games, and there was also a board game blender that came out, so go check that out. Games that bring out the worst in us. Check it. The games I reviewed are Sentient from Renegade Game Studios. This is a game in which you are going to be deploying workers and grabbing cards, placing them in front of you, and then manipulating dice that are around those cards in order to get specific combinations you want. If this all sounds sort of themeless, the theme certainly is pasted on in this game, but the game, the mechanisms, the tactics in the game are spectacular. This is a brilliant game. I really enjoyed my play of this. It's quick, you play 3 rounds, but each round is so fast. You really have a lot of little puzzles to deal with, and I love that kind of game. And while the theme is pasted on, it looks great. You know, the artwork goes a long way into helping me enjoy a game. So this for me was firing really on all cylinders. Definitely recommend you check this one out if you like a game that's tight and thinky. I also reviewed Link, a 2-player abstract game from the GIF series of games. And this one feels a lot like the older games in the series. It's thinky. It takes a few plays to sort of blossom in front of you, you know. And it's a slightly longer and slightly just a hair more complex than some of the other games, but still really fantastic. Not my favorite game in the series, but a strong, strong entry. And if you're a fan of abstract 2-player games, perfect information games, I think you're going to like this one. I reviewed The Fox in the Forest, also from Renegade Game Studios. This one is a 2-player only trick-taking game, which is very strange, but it works, and it feels like a trick-taking game. It's got a very interesting scoring mechanism where you want to take either very few tricks or a lot of tricks, but not too many, because if you take too many, the game deems you to be greedy and you score nothing at all. And how you manipulate your hand of cards is interesting. Very clever game. And then lastly, I reviewed Sheep and Thief, which is a reprint of an older game. The original printing came from Japan. It is a Japanese game. And this new reprint is a very nice production. It's a much bigger box, but it's a very lavishly illustrated game. Card drafting, and then you play those cards out in front of you sort of as tiles. You're connecting towns, connecting roads and rivers, and it just works. It's a quick one also. Very clever. A little bit of take that with your opponents. You can kind of mess with them a little bit, steal their sheep, but I really like it. I'm glad to see this one more widely available, and the production, very well done. So that's it for me. I will see you all next time.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Week in Review. Took care of 4 videos for you this week. The first one was a game called Strife, Shadows and Steam. This is basically a 2-player combative game where you're fighting over different kinds of locations. A lot of text on the cards and a lot of convolution with how the different characters work together in different phases of the game. So for me, it was pretty low, a 5 out of 10, because I can get a lot more efficiency and a lot more fun out of games that are similar weight, but just have less things that you have to keep track of during the course of the game. So that is Strife, Shadows and Steam. Check out the review for more on that. Also did Timeline British History. This is a very light game where you are chronologically trying to organize the cards that are in your hand. First, you start the game with 4 cards in your hand, and you're trying to get rid of them by correctly placing them in the timeline at the right spots. So it's a very cool thing. The British expansion, which is the one that I used in the review, is really cool. Has a pretty good balance of academic, kind of book smart kind of information, and then just regular common knowledge type stuff as well. So that was a pretty cool thing. Check that out one as well. And then I also did a video for Tournament at Camelot. This is a trick-taking game put out by WizKids, and it is actually pretty cool. It has player powers that are in there depending upon the protagonist companion pair that you pick at the beginning of the game. And there's also some twists on the actual card play as well during the different parts of the round. So definitely give that one a look. Very high rank on mine, 8 out of 10. So definite goodness there. So you can check that out. And then finally, I did a Citadel's Essentials informational video. This is basically a new set that is coming out, well, already has come out, already available from Games Workshop, where it provides a first step or a first little jaunt into the miniature hobby for those of you that might be starting that. So check out that video in case you fall into that paradigm, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.
So this week I took a look at Load. This is a game based on the MOBA type games where you're running creeps at each other and also have these heroes running around. Unfortunately, it's extremely too similar to Rum and Bones, the original Rum and Bones, and not as good. It's a little bit too much luck. The miniatures are great, but the game itself is really a pale shadow, so not one I really enjoyed that much. Statecraft, which sounds like a really interesting game, political style game where you're trying to appease voters by changing your views to match theirs, but there's too much luck and just the game itself doesn't really come across very strongly. Then we have Mage Wars Academy, the Force Master. Wasn't a huge fan of this one. I'm not a big fan of how the Force Master works, and I thought this added too much complexity to a game that wasn't as complex. We have Mage Wars Arena, which was fairly complex. Mage Wars Academy was simpler. This one I thought added the complexity back in. Color Cube Sudoku. I found this to be okay. It's a puzzle about putting cubes in and forming a Sudoku of colors, which is interesting, except there's not really a game there. It's just kind of find one of the 500,000 solutions out of the trillions of combos. I would have preferred to have given you like easy puzzles to hard like Think Fun normally does. Shaboom, this is a game where you stack pieces, roll dice, throw things, be silly, in essence with just a pile of components. You have a pile of components, you got to figure out what to do with them based on the card flipped over. Kids will enjoy this one. Just like kids will probably enjoy Dozen Donuts. Not me. It is essentially memory match with more rules and with donuts, which granted is a good thing to have added to a game. But like I said, this one is mostly for the kids. Cargolino Valentino. This is another game that's for kids about snails that's racing, but it's really quite good as you try to make your snails, which no one knows which color you are, you want them to come in last place. Kids delight in the fact that the snails are coming in last. And also they will roll dice and use the colors on those dice to determine which snails to move based on this color of that snail or the color of the space they're on. Really neat. Then we have Arena for the Gods. Sam Z and me took a look at that one. I liked it. I found it to be a fun thing where you kind of buff up your character and go. I thought the original auction, I don't know, I found that kind of a little clunky at the beginning of the game, but the rest of the game is fine. Race to El Dorado. We also took a look at this one. This was one of the Spiel des Jahres nominees. It's basically a deck building game mixed with a race game. Very, very straightforward, very simple. And then I took a look at Mythos Tales. Mythos Tales is the Cthulhu version of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. It's creepy, it's very thematic, it's different than almost any other game out there. Closest thing is maybe Time Stories, where you're trying to work together and get clues and figure out a mystery together. Really enjoyed this one. There's some mistakes in the game that you need to go online and fix, but you will enjoy it, especially if you like Cthulhu. And then finally, we took a look at Viral, which I'm super pumped about. This is the new game from Dice Tower Essentials, Arcane Wonders, an area control game where viruses are invading a body and just you're playing card combinations and trying to evolve your virus to make it more powerful by at the same time remaining undetected by the scientists trying to cure this person whose body you're in. Really great graphics, really excited about this game. That's the week in review. We appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel on the Dice Tower.